Hello, ShaRAmea.
Hello, AnSaRA.
Here we are together without Sam Porner. He's having a night off.
Yes, yes.
And we thought we would talk about our wake up call.
Wow, what a wake up call.
Yeah, the moment that we awakened and knew, wow, there was something more to us, and we began on our spiritual awakening.
Yeah, and it's been very profound for myself, and what I'm feeling and sensing now to, oh gosh, how it would have been 5 years ago now, 5.5 years ago, and how I felt back then to how I feel now, and that's
Do you
profound.
even recognize yourself as the same person anymore?
No, not at all.
No, I
No,
can't say I do either.
no. And even when you feel back into that time, it's like, how did I live my life feeling the way that I felt for all that time to now?
I know,
It's just profound.
because I had the same issue. It's called your false self.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it absolutely false self.
Yeah. You don't know, like you just don't know what you don't know. And it took me until a physical healing crisis to realize that something was dreadfully wrong
Mm.
because you grow up, you're conditioned by your family, your culture, your friends, and so you just proceed through life, and you don't necessarily, you're not educated at school, anything spiritual, you're not educated about grounding, nothing.
No, not at all.
No.
And for me, it wasn't so much a physical, it was more of a knowing, a sensing, a feeling. And it's really been with me all my life.
Well, that means you're more awake for your wake up call than I was, because mine was further ago. I would have been, 15 years ago. But then I look at the progression.
Yes.
It was very different compared to in the last, say, 5 to 6 years. Sam Porter and I have been together for 7. So, yeah, really, really intense 7 years. And
Yes.
then prior to that, it was a very gradual awakening.
Yeah, and really for myself, as a young child, 3 or 4 years old, seeing, sensing, and feeling spirit, and not really understanding what this was about, and being shut down.
Who shut you down?
It was my mum and my grandmother, and it's, oh, we don't talk about those things, and no, we don't bring that forward, and it was just, and I used to go to bed screaming and crying and seeing spirit and not understanding what it was all about, and because it just wasn't the done thing. And so, and I really spent my life like that,
Shut down.
just shut down. And the more that it was shut down, the more that it was like, but I just didn't use the psychic side of it. But the feeling has never gone away.
Wow.
Like I've always had a sense of a knowing, my intuition, knowing things before they even really happen, but not really understanding why
Yeah.
this was happening to me. And then, yeah, it just got more and more profound. And one day I was just sitting on the couch, and I knew my awareness that I knew that there was like an expo that was being held at a school in Christchurch Centre, and it was just like a calling, and I felt that calling with deep within me. It's like, I know I've got to be there.
Wow. So you had an absolute knowing.
Absolute knowing. And,
Yeah.
I just picked myself up off the couch, and I said to my husband, I'm going out for a wee while, got my keys, got in the car, and I drove to Heaton Intermediate. And that moment changed my life. But it still took me like 18 months to physically get there, but I knew that I really found where I was meant to be. And I met beautiful AnSaRA.
I still remember that
And
day.
it was, yeah.
You were sitting like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed right up the front row in a workshop.
I was,
Yeah.
and I was just soaking it all up. And you speaking about the chakras and using the dowsing rods and just actually seeing how shut down I was. There was nothing. It was just like you could walk straight up to me, and there was no movement in those dowsing rods whatsoever.
No aura.
No aura, nothing.
No.
And, I wasn't feeling it in a more like a physical sense, but then actually going through the process, and I was working a retail job and not really understanding other people's frequencies and how they affect you, and just in that moment, meeting you was just, it's changed my life. It really has changed my life, because learning about myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is, and I'm going actually chills and goosebumps while I'm saying this. It's actually now like my life is so different, and I mean I just, the fullness of it, like you know, like yeah. And this weekend just gone, and it's actually getting me quite emotional. I feel like I have come full circle, because we have actually just attended exactly the same event that I first met AnSaRA, and it was just like, wow, okay.
Except this time
I
were a
was
practitioner.
a practitioner. And I feel that within me. But what I've learnt for my whole physical self, and just how important it is to really tune and tap into your frequency, tune and tap into your energy, and just feel it. You know, don't overthink it. Feel it, because that's what's changed my life. And how my physical body is now, oh, there's no comparison.
No.
And it's the healing of it, and yeah, it's just been profound.
Yeah, yours has been very fast evolution, like many people who know you
Yes.
from Starseed Ascension School, and also just our general spiritual friends who have seen you grow. Like I remember even just in COVID in 2020, you were on the other side of Zoom doing my pendulum workshop.
I was.
And everyone remembers that, and they're like, wow, look at ShaRAmea.
I was.
You've just totally stepped into your power. You've run with all the tools, everything you've learnt, become so masterful, and then just switched on your psychic powers to the point now where you channel, you channel higher guidance. Like you're incredible. You step right up with Samporna as a keeper of the light, protecting the planet, clearing beings off the planet, like a real galactic soul that you are. And you can see that your quickening was essential to be here at this time of ascension, stepping into who you are as a soul and your mission.
Yeah.
It's like I don't think your evolution is like being straight up a very steep mountain, Mount Everest, whereas mine was a real slow burner. So it's really cool to compare our awakening stories up, because they couldn't be more different.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, there's been some not such great moments in that time, and you know, like the physical side for me, and you know, working with Master Samporna on more the physicality of it, and you know,
You had to clean your whole body vessel out, didn't you?
fully, and you know what toxins I was holding on in my body, and how was it affecting my body, and really working on that side of it. That wasn't pleasant, but it really helps to align your frequency, you know, and working with the chakras too. You know, what was I holding on to from my family? You know?
You had a lot of unlearning to do.
Yeah, and I was a 100% people pleaser.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I was the one that was saying yes all the time to everybody, because I felt like, well, if I'm saying yes, then I'm being good. You know, I'm pleasing people.
Conditioning.
I'm being conditioned. Yeah, and I was 100% people pleaser.
Me too.
And you know, my lower chakras, oh my goodness, they were just
Well, the lower chakras get like that because you're focusing on external and all your energy's outflowing.
Yes.
And one of the hardest things for a pleaser to learn, and I had to too, is to fill our cup up first.
Yes.
And only give from an overflowing cup. And it can be a very profound journey, that unlearning of the belief system that got you into being a pleaser and a giver and an overfunctioner, and that you offer before you're asked. And then you tend to be passive aggressive because pleasers are controllers. So it's like you have this program where everything you do and say is to keep the peace, to not rock the boat, and to keep your connection with people through all this external efforting.
Yeah.
And then you just end up so depleted.
And you do. And you do end up running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
And yes, as a mother, you know, we are there as you know, we look after our children, and there's aspects there that I felt that, you know, not harsh on my children, but they really felt like they were getting some guidance, and because I felt that deep within me to bring that forward for them.
Mm.
But that was just a natural thing for me to do. I didn't understand why I was doing that, but now I do. I fully understand why that was just an innate feeling and sensing that I had within me to really guide my children the way that I did.
Mm.
And it just makes 100% sense now as to why that was there for me.
Yeah.
And you know, the best moments for me really is knowing who I truly am now. And
That's gold.
and understanding that and knowing that, you know, I'm more than I am just here in the physical sense. You know, we are divine beings of light and love, and we're here to shine that, and I feel that now deep within me. And you know, we're here to bring change, and that's my purpose.
Wow.
And finding that out. That's who I truly am.
It takes a lot of courage and guts to go through a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
Not to shy away from who you are as a soul and to step into your purpose, because then you proceeded to resign from your job.
Yes, I did.
And then begin your own
faith.
spiritual practice as a practitioner, as a soul coach. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone who's just known, like you knew precisely the time you were going to give up work. You had a real feeling for how things would unfold for you. And you just had this absolute knowing confidence. There was never a doubt.
Never a doubt.
Never a doubt.
And that's my knowing. That's my intuition, and trusting that, and knowing that, you know, we're divinely guided, and when we learn to trust and have faith in that, that's when the magic happens. And you really do then find your path and where you're meant to be.
And it unfolds for you.
It does.
Yeah, because you know where you're coming from.
That's it. Yes.
Whereas pleasers live in the future, worrying about where they're going to.
Yeah. And I mean, even if I say there's another best moment, is actually learning the tools and the techniques to, one, get me through my day, but out of my head and get into my sacred heart space. That has been life-changing. You know, when we leave from the sacred heart space and not our head, that's when the magic happens as well.
What we call alignment.
Alignment.
Yeah. To your true self.
To my true self. But it also opens up that, the avenues of being able to tune into your intuition, you know, really be guided by your soul self, your guides, your spirit guides, unlocking certain aspects within you for your psychic gifts. We all have it. It's not to fear. You know, we put a lot of fear into that, but it's not to fear.
Because
it's powerful.
Even if someone doesn't want to pursue their spirituality to the lengths and depths that you have, even if you're just someone who switches themselves on to a point of using their intuition just to guide their everyday life, there's a real power to that. Like, you just flow.
There's a power.
Yeah, and you're guided to the point where you know, oh, actually, no, I'm not going to get in the car and go there. And then you find out later that there was an accident. Or, and it's like we know that when we don't listen to that little inner voice, we always regret it.
We do.
It's pretty common. You hear people say that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And now there's been times in my life where I haven't listened to my gut feeling or my intuition. And it's like, okay, well,
it's a great lesson.
Next time I'll listen more.
You just learn. You learn. You teach yourself, don't you?
We learn.
Yeah.
And, you know, and what you've really showed me, and both Master Samporna as well, is that, you know, we can choose, well, I feel like we can choose our life, but actually it's our life chooses us and in who we are.
I think it's predestined.
It is. Absolutely.
And I reckon too, like, now that I've been doing it for long enough, things are divinely orchestrated. And sometimes you think it's absolute worst thing that's happening to you, and things are falling apart, people are falling away, you feel lost, directionless, and you have to go through that. You have to do all this unattaching and surrendering and letting go, and almost like crying like a baby in the fetal position, asking, who am I? Why am I here? What is this all about? And then all of a sudden, when you get beyond that and you just let go of and not know, that's when you start to know.
Absolutely.
It just comes.
It does. It literally
It's like
just
magic.
comes.
It really is. It's so magical, this whole journey.
It is the magic, and then, you know, being able to now really work with other beautiful souls to illuminate their light, their divine light, and for them to remember, you know, that's just profound for me, and it's so fulfilling.
And to also help teach and guide from the perspective of having gone through it all yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Best teachers.
Oh, hugely.
Yeah.
And it's a profound, and in some aspects I am lost for words because, you know, feeling back into how I was previously to now, it's like, wow, there's no comparison.
No, it's like saying that my former self was a shadow
Yes.
of who I am now.
Yes.
And it literally is the shadow
It
self.
is a shadow.
Yeah.
It is a shadow.
Mm.
And, you know, we've grown together, and I feel like that's been a really beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, and you step up to
grow.
the plate with us. Like, you're up with us all night if we're
Yeah, I know.
clearing the planet, protecting the planet. Like, you just don't shy away from anything.
Yeah.
It's been like we've become this triad because we've recognised what I see in you is in me,
Yes.
and vice versa.
And we've had some very profound moments together
Yeah.
on some of our journeys and that we've been on.
Lots of tears.
Lots of tears.
Soul sisterhood.
Lots of laughter.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, you know, what you bring forward to your, you know, beautiful souls that you see, but even just for yourself, you know, the change that I've seen in you has been profound.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this year, I don't think I could have even imagined if someone said to me, in May, you're going to have huge spiritual experiences and you're going to have past life memories, know who you were in past lives, and have inner knowings. I thought I was. And then when May hit and June and July, it has been absolutely textbook profound spiritual initiation. And I know we're in big ascension energies, but because I've been willing to do the inner work and continually do the inner work every single day, because I just refuse to feel anything other than squeaky, shiny, clean, high frequency.
Exactly.
It just brings the gifts on. They just flow through. And whatever's meant for you truly does show up. And sometimes it can be quite challenging, the letting go and the unlearning and fragments of yourself that just no longer serve you. It's like it's like a giant puzzle of yourself falling away and a blank canvas just appearing regularly.
Yeah.
And then when you surrender again, and then the gifts come forward again, and you think, wow, how could I be rebirthed this many times? But we've been in a very intense death, rebirth, double eclipses, double full moons. Like the astrology we've been experiencing this year from March, which was the beginning of the golden age and a prophesized time. Yeah, what I've been experiencing has been textbook spiritual initiation into the higher realms of my consciousness levels and becoming the greatest soul that I am, because our spirit soul self is really projecting itself through this physical vessel. And so as I become more and more connected, it's like becoming going from copper cable to broadband.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably the best way to describe it.
That is the best
We've
way.
got broadband,
We got
darling.
broadband.
Well, so
how we align to all of this too is, you know, we can so dismiss something that comes across our path. And I remember what you were saying to me about your, you know, being aligned to all of this. And, you know, a brochure that you had, the brochure
when I
for you.
first woke,
Yeah.
It was a brochure I picked up. I was in Victoria, and well, I have to take it back a little bit before the brochure. So I thought I was going mad. I had tied myself up into knots of walled off emotions, in complete denial, not speaking the truth to myself, staying in a relationship for fear. Like the pain to leave was greater than the pain to stay. But finally, when my body broke down, the pain to stay was greater than the pain to leave. And I had to actually get to that tipping point of physically wrecked. That my mental mind was so strong, I could keep willing myself along. I was running the pleaser program, no boundaries, unable to say no, voiceless. I was running that to the absolute max on the most adrenaline you could imagine, whipping myself, pushing myself through chronic fatigue, chugging down the coffees, sugars on board. And so that went on for quite some years. And I remember there was a couple of real, I suppose you'd call them abyss moments, trough moments. And I remember I went to work and I had to ask my boss at the time if I could stand up in the meeting because I couldn't keep my eyes awake. And she said, you need to go to the doctor. There's something wrong with you. So I went and I nearly fell asleep driving 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I sat down in the chair in the doctor's surgery and I didn't even know I'd fallen asleep.
Oh my God.
And they had to rattle me awake.
Oh, wow.
And then all the tests came back and they said, well, we can't find anything. There's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, there's totally something wrong with me. I'm chronically
That's not
fatigued.
normal to
No.
wanting to close your eyes all the
No.
time.
And so then I wouldn't be able to stay awake. So I'd pull off to the side of the road, find a park under a tree, and I'd wake up half a day later.
Oh, wow.
And I remember someone actually came to the door of my house, and I used to love pulling up in the car, putting the seat back. They thought I was dead in the car. They were knocking at the window because I was like probably mouth open and dripping. And then it started to get quite serious, and I thought, I felt like the living dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing keeping me going was the sugar and the coffees. And I literally was like Rocky Balboa going to work, geeing myself up, drawing up more adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember one day, because then I started to mentally and emotionally lose it. And I was driving a tractor on the farm, and the tractor was so loud, it was like a big old Thomas the Tank Engine blue Fergie. And as I was going down the road, I was swearing like at the top of my lungs about the relationship that was well over 6 years before I should have left. I effing this and that. And I remember I got to the bottom and I thought, Anita, you need to go and see someone.
Yeah.
And I knew that it had gotten past that point where mentally I was becoming unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and 6 months into the normal services offered, I was ready to slit my throat because if I had to talk about my past one more time, it was just pulling my hair out. I'm like, I have no direction. I have no clarity. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. I just know what I'm not. I know what I don't want. I'm scared shitless. And all it was about the past and what's happened today. And let's rehash what you're going over in your relationship. Same shit, different day. And I remember I walked out and I said, I'm never going back there. All I do is feel heavy when I leave.
Yes.
And so then I went to the cafe. And I walked into this cafe at Mooroolbark and there was a brochure sitting there and I picked it up and it said, are you on the road to ruin or transformation?
I'm like, read about
I'm on the road to ruin. But I was still in so much denial.
Wow.
I was in so much denial that I thought that brochure was for my husband who needed to fix the marriage and the relationship up, right? So I took it home and I passively aggressively left it right where he couldn't miss it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it took about a week and he didn't see it, and I was so passive aggressive and voiceless I never said anything.
Yeah.
But in my mind I'm having the arguments, the war broken out within. He hasn't picked it up. Doesn't he realise he needs to fix himself? He needs to fix this marriage, blah, blah. Anyway, finally like the penny dropped and I picked it up, and that was when I had the penny dropping moment. You're on the road to Ron.
Yeah.
So I sit down and I ring the number and it had life coach on it, and I thought, oh, what have I got to lose?
Yeah.
So I rang Alison Martin Terry up in Mount Evelyn, and I said I'd really like to make a time. Anyway, I made my first appointment. I went there and it was life-changing. It was like he was spiritual, So it meant that he came from a completely different angle. He gave me breakthrough moments. He made me own my shit. And he told me I was like a puppet on a string, completely controlled. And I remember another time, and I messaged him, and I was so frustrated. Oh, there was one really profound moment where I said, "Oh, I don't want to go home. There's no peace at home." And he goes, "Oh, there's always peace at home. You just can't find it." And that I remember sitting with that going, "Oh, that took me a while to understand what he meant." And another time I remember messaging him saying, "Oh, I've just had enough," and I was going to have a Southern Comfort in the days of drinking.
Good old Southern
and
Comforts.
he said, "Do not do that. Just sit with it." And it was like, it was so profound to have someone giving you guidance that was so foreign and outside the box, but it so resonated with me. And so that then began my intrigue into life coaching, spiritual, just learning, like I jumped straight into a pendulum workshop. So this was my next big aha moment. So I went along to their spiritual workshop and they said, "Oh, we're going to teach you how to use a pendulum and you're going to balance your chakras." And I'm like, "Chakra what?"
Chakra what?
Chakra what?
It was like me when you were mentioning like chakras.
Anyway.
And that was like me sitting there on the chair like soaking it all up.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I couldn't get enough of it.
I know. Anyway, so this damn thing, they picked it up in 2 seconds flat. The thing was whizzing around and I'm like, "Oh my God, what am I doing? This is like magic."
Yeah.
And then I was balancing my chakras and I got to the end and honest to God, I stood bolt upright. I was like, "Someone's turned the lights up. What the?" and I remember everything got like crisp, clear sound.
Yeah.
My eyesight improved. I felt just like I'd grown, like my whole frame had grown. And I remember I went outside and I had my arms up on the top of my old car. And I was looking around going, "What's just happened? What has happened?" Anyway, I went home. I Googled chakras. 5 hours later. I was buying books. I was absolutely...
I was Googling everything.
Obsessed.
Like, I was Googling everything about psychic sight, chakras, energy bodies, energy fields.
Turns something on in you that has always been there, like you said. Yeah. But it's like someone turns a switch on and off you go. And I went back to them on the second workshop. I knew I had a spirit guide. I knew my spirit guide's name. And it was just like I'd fallen into my second talent after being a top horse rider and going to a very high level. This was like my next best talent. and from that point forward, I was so completely astounded that I knew that why don't anybody else know this? Why haven't I been told this? Why did I go for blood tests? Why did I go to Chinese doctors? Why did I spend thousands and thousands of dollars on trying to find my health when I needed to know I'd lost myself and I needed to know I had energy centers and I needed to ground myself but didn't have a clue. And then, the journey into the heart space. But it was the most magnificent awakening. You could write a book about that whole series of events that led me to then be obsessed with chakras. And I just knew at that point I had to be a life coach who combined energy healing to help people to have breakthroughs like I did and discover parts of themselves they didn't know existed and to switch all their colours on, to switch their lights on, to feel whole again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had those moments with you. And, what you've really, taught and shown me, it's absolutely life-changing when you really do tune into your chakras and tune into your light body.
And you smash those blocks.
And you do. You smash those blocks. Yeah. And it took me 18 months from the first time we met to actually physically come and sit in your chair. And, and there was some moments there where, okay, there's a few home truths on this. And it took probably 2 or 3 sessions to actually unpack it all. And, one of the biggest things for me is speaking my truth and being able to speak my truth with confidence. And however,
that takes some learning
does
too.
take some
It's probably
learning.
one of my biggest things was to be able to
the
do
truth
that
with confidence,
without doubt, without fear of
Without-
criticism and
that's it.
judgment.
because that's a big one.
Mm.
You know, we hold on to too much because it's fear of judgment.
Well, again, it's all back to that
right.
conditioning, programming, that original relationship wound. And so if you get wounded in the lower chakras, they affect the upper chakras.
That's
so,
right.
of course, the throat, the voice.
Mm.
We could have we'll do a whole other
We
podcast on
will,
chakras.
yeah. But it's been an incredible time, and you know, I'm just looking forward to now with what's coming forward.
Mm.
And you know, helping other beautiful souls really feel what I feel within me now, because
Is that your spiritual why?
that's my spiritual why.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's now, you know, because I've been there, and I know how it feels to, you know, for others to put so much pressure on you to be this way, to do this sort of thing, you know, and the expectations that are put on you. Oh, you're expected to do this, you're expected to do that.
And then you're expected to stay the same. So you don't
Yep.
upset anybody else's
Absolutely.
apple cart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, for others to really to now see that, you know, that's a program. You know, that's a programming, and we do not have to be that way. You know, come out of a doing world and start being.
And what's my spiritual why? The why to be spiritual now? I just think everybody deserves to shine.
Yeah.
And we all have that capacity. And it's just twiddling a few knobs, releasing some emotion back into motion, a bit of knowledge, a bit of wisdom. But I reckon everybody's got an inner spiritual being right inside you. It's your divinity. It's your birthright. You can't hide from it.
No.
It's there. And I just love seeing the light return into my clients' eyes as I release them from their own invisible prison, the same invisible prison that I was released from. That's my why.
Yeah. Oh, I got chills when you just said that. That's really powerful. And you know, and clients, you know, and beautiful souls that I've seen that have seen you, that's profound.
Yeah. That sparkle in your eye, that glimmer in your eye, and getting your smile back. That's my why.
Yeah. And, you know, like one of the most profound moments I've actually had in my wake-up call is me being able to look in the mirror and see myself for who I truly am, and actually tell myself I love myself. I love me for who I am. That takes some getting there to do that. And I really feel that, because when you look in your own eyes, you know, what are you seeing? And when you one day wake up and you look in that mirror and you can see you, and you know it's you, that's when it's profound.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm getting
and that's profound.
Can I tell you something profound but funny profound, but still profound? And I know a lot of women will relate to this. So my mother and her sister had always dyed their hair, and they cursed their mum's white hair. And so I just remember the hairdresser trip, the hair dye was such a big deal for them. And so my sister and I proceeded into the same pattern of colouring hair, and there's nothing wrong with that. And but I had to go through a journey as part of my awakening. One day I went to the hairdresser and I just had to say, no, stop. No, I don't even know what colour hair I've got anymore. I don't know whether it's peppered grey, white, no idea. And so hence began this journey to allow my hair to grow out, and it's like fringe length now. And you know what, that is again like an awakening within you, that just you can't believe you're doing something like that. And I'm like, well, what's my why for doing that? And mine was chemical. It's like both Mum and Minnie have had dementia. And I thought to myself, what are you doing putting all these chemicals onto your scalp? And my head was itchy and hot, and it was telling me it wasn't happy. And so I then challenged myself to go through this whole complete regrowth. Like Samporna said, shave your hair off. I wasn't that bold. However, that like what you're saying, being able to look at myself in the mirror
Mm.
and see that my hair is imperfect as would be seen by the 3D world, and actually really enjoying this journey of authenticity to allow it to just be
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been really, really quite interesting. And I'm not to say that I won't use vegan hair dye later,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm determined just to let the whole process go. It's almost like that old hair represents a part of old me.
Yes.
And yeah, that in itself's been a way for me to see that now I no longer hold on to unworthiness or a lack of self-love or self-judgment, that I've been doing things for others or because it should be done.
Well, it's an expectation, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you shouldn't look that way, or you shouldn't be that way. So it's a
And more women are doing it.
they are.
Yeah.
They're embracing. You know,
Embrace the crone.
embrace it, and yeah, and just however you feel, you know, because the mirror is a reflection of who you truly are when you truly look at when you go within. Because yes, we live, you know, we're this outer shell, but this is just a shell. You know, this is just
When you feel the magnificence of your soul,
yeah.
I think that's when you care less.
Yes.
Well, you just get more simple.
You do.
You've got to make an effort to get dressed because you just really doesn't bother you.
No, it doesn't.
Like you're not having to
No.
wear clothes in a certain way. Like I just dress now for comfort, and as long as it looks smart and I'm happy with the colours, and it's more about picking the colour that day that I want to wear, like orange tonight, and it's more of a feeling than a look.
Yeah, and I mean, people, you know, especially women, expectation of how they should look when they go to work, you know, all of that. And I mean, I was right there. I worked in that environment, in front centre in retail. You had to have your nails a certain way, your hair a certain way, makeup, all of this stuff. And it's so liberating to step away from that and just be. If you feel like you don't want to actually get dressed up, or if you feel like you just want to be, you know, however you want to be, there's no, you can do it with confidence, because it's like, well, actually, I'll present myself how I'm feeling today, not what the expectation is of others that I should be and how I should be.
Yeah, very liberating.
Yeah, very liberating.
Oh, it's been fun to talk about all that.
It's been amazing, you know.
I don't often take a trip down memory lane.
No, we don't actually. It's to go.
Well, we're too busy, I suppose, in a way, allowing our paths to unfold.
Yes.
But you know, I still love my old self because it gives me that contrast to know how much I've grown.
Yes.
And appreciating that journey for what it is. Yeah, and I don't regret anything. Like it's been, sometimes it's been glorious, other times it's been hard work and scary. But when you really start to see it all unfolding, you can really understand why you've had to go through it, and that it's absolutely perfect in its design, the whole awakening process.
Yeah, hugely. And you know, my feeling is that I would not be who I am today if I had not experienced what I've experienced beyond doing any of this, you know, any work on myself. You know, we are here to learn, and we learn our life lessons. And, you know, for me, going through that, it's put me right in the path of where I am now.
And if there was a takeaway message coming from what you're saying, ShaRAmea, it is evolve.
Evolve.
Grow. You know, yes, you'll be the little seed shoved into the dirt on occasion, and you'll grow, and then it'll happen again and you'll grow, and then you get really, really good at this death rebirth, and then you start to recognize when it's coming around.
Yeah.
And you recognize a rest cycle and going within.
Yeah.
And before you know it, again, you're back in that chrysalis phase, and I feel like I've just been through that May till now.
Yes.
And I can really feel my butterfly wings coming on again, and I'm like, wow, this is just this whole Ouroboros, as it's called, rebirth process, metamorphosis. It is. It's truly magnificent by its design, and we are meant to shed those skins. We are meant to grow new wings, and that will then elevate us higher and higher. And it truly is the most amazing journey that I would, just can't sing enough praises about it, really.
It's interesting. He's talking about butterflies, and it's like I see a caterpillar. You know, the caterpillar is on their journey to then go into its chrysalis in its cocoon, to then emerge as this beautiful butterfly that can fly to any lengths, to any and soar.
And there's a lovely
saying. Seeing that, it's just like, wow.
And a butterfly doesn't have to think about flying; it just knows.
It just knows.
And that's really the gift that comes from the death rebirth, is this switching on of your intuition and your knowing. And when you surrender and you let go and you stay in your heart space, it just unfolds and your wings unfurl.
They do.
And they guide you. And that's intuition.
That's intuition. And don't be afraid of
You're born with it.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you really are.
And not to be afraid of your intuition. You know, it's there to guide you.
Yeah. Embrace the unknown.
Embrace the unknown.
Yeah.
And allow that guidance.
It's worth knowing what you don't know about yourself. It really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And it's a beautiful journey.
Oh, that's been lovely. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. And we'll come together again soon with
We
another
will.
topic. And
hopefully, I'm sure there's a lot of takeaway aha moments in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure our stories aren't uncommon.
No, not at all.
No.
And I feel it's like time for these stories to be told. You know, tell your story. Don't be afraid to speak your story. And for one person that you may tell your story to, that's a healing for that person, because it might resonate for them.
Well, we learn off each other.
And we do.
Yeah.
And
we're wisdom keepers, and when we share our wisdom, it gives people those aha moments to reflect and see themselves within those stories. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And by doing that, you're planting the seed for whomever you're speaking with.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thanks, soul sister.
Thanks, soul sister too. I love these moments.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
So great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.